Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Her Hoops Stats podcast. Today is Thursday, June 26th. I'm Chelsea Leite, and I'm joined here by Coach Helen Williams, and we are going to get into some of the biggest stories in the WNBA today. Make sure to subscribe to the Her Hoops Stats podcast here if you're watching on YouTube or wherever you're listening to our podcast. Her Hoops Stats is also online at herhoopstats.com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter and look at all of the amazing stats that our team puts together on the site. We're also on social media at X, on Blue Sky, on Instagram. So come check us out, leave a comment. We'd love to talk to you, but right now we're going to talk to each other because that's what we do. We set this podcast and we have. Coach, it's always nice to talk to you after another week. I mean, what's new in Coach's world? Where are you this week?
I'm home this week.
Okay.
I was in LA last week, and then next week I'm going to be in Vermont. I'm going to spend a birthday weekend in Vermont because
Let's go.
I love that state during the summer, and just I'm going to go hang out by the water and celebrate my birthday.
That sounds lovely. I guess your birthday's kind of around 4th of July weekend then.
Yeah, it's the 5th. My birthday, I don't understand why everybody celebrates that day because my birthday is the real holiday.
It's true. I would say that. Of course. Yeah. I mean, up here in Canada, we celebrate July 1st instead of July 4th, but close enough. It's the same deal, just a different day. So we're getting into that holiday week coming up. But before that, the WNBA is still going. And one of the biggest tidbits of news that came out on Thursday morning was that Caitlin Clark will not be playing in the Indiana Fever's game tonight against, who are they playing? The Los Angeles Sparks tonight. And she is missing that game because of a left groin injury that was discovered last night, according to head coach Steph White. She got an MRI. Apparently, the MRI doesn't show signs of strain, but she is in somewhat of pain, so they are keeping her. And I mean, could that be because it's serious? Could that be because of the fact that Indiana has back-to-back games tonight and tomorrow? That's up in the air. But Coach, what's your reaction to one, another Caitlin Clark injury, two, on the same side and leg technically that her previous injury was at? And do you think this has anything to do with the fact that she has kind of had a few rough games this week?
I'm not a doctor, so I can't say. But I did go back and look at all of her misses from all of the games after the one that she came back, which I think was the Liberty.
Yeah.
And because I wanted to see if there was some sort of pattern. And I didn't see anything that would say, oh, she's, everything's short. So that means she's not getting up off the court. Or, I mean, her misses were all over the place. They were short. They were long. They hit the back of the rim. They hit the side of the backboard. She missed layups. And so I'm not going to say that has nothing to do with that, but I do think she's sort of in a slump. I mean, shooters go through a slump, and this might be her first really long, protracted slump. And watching her body language after she misses shots, you can tell she's frustrated, and not that she is quiet with officials anyway, but a little bit more demonstrative, wanting to get calls, and I think she's. It's just a slump, and she's a shooter. She's going to continue to shoot. She's put in the work. You have to shoot yourself, out of those slumps. But until then, I think she should just focus on other parts of her game and, doing in terms of assists, in terms of controlling, cutting down her turnovers, and playing defense. And the shot will come because I'm sure she's putting the work in. But shooters go through slumps, and I didn't see anything in all those misses that would tell me that she's, it's the injury, if whatever it is debilitating. Maybe it does have something to do with it, maybe it doesn't. But from what I saw, they were just missed shots. Some of them literally was in the cup and came out. So I don't know.
Sometimes the rim is just unlucky, but I mean, to contextualize what we're talking about, Caitlin Clark in her last 3 games has shot 1 for 23 from 3-point range. In her last game against Seattle, which the Fever did end up winning, she scored 6 points in 31 minutes. 3 for 13 from the field, 0 from 6 from three. She shot 23% from the field. She had 8 turnovers. She also had 8 turnovers in the game against Las Vegas, which was the game before that, and 6 turnovers in the Indiana Fever's loss to the Golden State Valkyries on the 19th of June as well. And so, yeah, I mean, she scored 6 points, Seattle, like I said, but she still scored 19 points against Las Vegas, 7 points against Golden State. And in that Las Vegas game, she had 19 points, 10 assists. So, like you said, she is finding other ways sometimes to be able to score, getting to the basket in other ways, assisting her teammates, which we all know she's a very prolific assister, a very prolific playmaker, and has good IQ when it comes to dumping it into the post. I know that Las Vegas game, Aaliyah Boston had a great game as well. So, like, she was able to capitalize on that part of her game. But yeah, I mean, she misses this game. The Indiana Fever then play again. They're on a road trip. So they'll play in LA, and then I believe tomorrow they play in Dallas. So that's like they have to travel. They have to, play again 2 nights in a row. And so if you're in pain already, like, risking it is one thing. Risking it when you have 2 games and like an away back to back is another thing. And then it's also like she's Caitlin Clark, right? So you don't want to risk longer term injury. You don't want to risk her missing more games because, God forbid she doesn't play, and then people, are eulogizing the league as we know it. But
And
um
blaming the coaching and the training staff. Yeah,
exactly.
I think she. The other reason I watched all her misses is I wanted to see if they were doing anything defensively to her that they hadn't done,
Mhm.
all year, and she was getting her normal shots. I mean,
Yeah.
her patented push off, so she can create some room for herself.
Yeah.
Going to the left was there, and I didn't see anything, out of the ordinary. But the other thing we were talking off camera is just if she's out tonight and she plays tomorrow, they're playing on the first for the Commissioner's Cup.
An
That's
extra game.
$500,000. So what's the priority here? The quote unquote going against Paige Beckers, or $500,000, which for her, we. I'm not going to say she doesn't want the money, but she's not hurting for money. But for the rest of her teammates,
Yeah.
that's a pretty big deal, a pretty nice chunk of money. So where is the priority for them aside from making sure that she's healthy enough to play?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the Commissioner's Cup is an extra game that they put on their schedule. So they'll have a 45 game schedule as opposed to a 44 game schedule. They're playing the Minnesota Lynx. It would be a great kind of like assessment to see where they are against the top team in the league. They don't necessarily maybe need her in Dallas as opposed to needing her for the Commissioner's Cup. I think this whole thing with, like, when we talk about Caitlin Clark injuries and her slump and everything, it's like these are all very normal things to go through when you're an athlete. Obviously, you've seen athletes get hurt and go through slumps and et cetera, et cetera. But I just feel bad for her in the sense that, like, she can't win because if she's on the court trying to fight through whatever she's fighting through and she's missing shots, she has people constantly micro scrutinizing her game from every angle, saying, why is she doing this? Why are her teammates doing this? Why is her coach doing that? Like, she just gets viewed under such a microscope. But then when she sits out, which again every athlete does, then there's this whole narrative and all this pressure being put on her. If she doesn't play, then people bought tickets and people are doing this and viewership will go down and all of that. So I think, like, my main thing whenever I keep seeing her, either go through these slumps or be hurt or have to miss games, is just like I feel so bad for the amount of pressure that is being put on this one person, and kind of almost having the pressure on her of being like the person who makes or breaks this league. And I know it's because fans like her, but it's also like you kind of have to step back and be like, okay, the burden of all of this shouldn't be on this one very young player who still should have a very long career ahead of her, and instead is having all this pressure on her to, like, play every game despite not being healthy, try to shoot when she's not feeling it, try to force things that are happening. So, I mean, that's my perspective as we, see her out with another injury.
Yeah, I think, for Caitlin, she has to control her own narrative the best way that she can. Do what's
Mhm.
best for her because in the
True.
end, she's the one that's got to look in the mirror. She knows her body.
Mhm.
And it's not like she doesn't wanna be out there. Like, she's a
Mhm.
competitor,
Of
and
course.
she wants to be out there, and I'm sure she's thought of all the things we're talking about,
Yeah.
"Hey, it'd be nice if we won the Commissioner's Cup because my teammates would get some money," and, but that's the thing with Caitlin is other people wanna put their narratives on her, and I think
Mhm.
for her, she's still learning, like, this is about how I want to, control this narrative, so I would hope that she does what's best for her, and not risk anything long term to satisfy someone who can't make a free throw who's nameless on social media saying she should be out there shooting or what's wrong with her shot.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, regardless, I hope that it's nothing serious and that she's just out for rest, to see if they can just kind of like rest her for tonight and she can play tomorrow, she can play, or whether it's she plays on July 1st. Any of that. But I mean, let's move on to another place that has been interesting in terms of this year's basketball. Let's go check in Ballhalla, which is being the new name of the Golden State Valkyries home arena. Do you know what the term Ballhalla comes from? Because I looked it up this morning.
No, you can enlighten me.
Okay, so obviously, the Valkyries are named after like the Valkyries of Norse mythology, the female warriors.
That I do know.
Yes, because obviously the Golden State Warriors, it's the same franchise, so they did the fun thing to just make them called the Valkyries. But so Valhalla is coming from Valhalla, which is technically the Norse god Odin. It's like his hall, and basically the Valkyries' job is to find slain warriors out in the world in this mythology and bring them to Valhalla for Odin to use as his warriors. And so the idea of Ballhalla is the fact that you have the Valkyries who are bringing their defeated opponents and to be able to celebrate in front of the fans. And so that's my interpretation of them calling it Ballhalla, which I think was really fun and kind of just ties in the whole mythology of the name. But in terms of basketball itself, Ballhalla is lit.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect, when as an expansion team. And I think a lot of people were just like, they're going to lose all the games. They're going to be terrible. They're
Yeah.
basically taking quote unquote cast offs from other teams who were role players. And now they're going to have to step up and be, the woman at certain points. But I obviously have been impressed with them, and I've been impressed that they've been willing to use a matchup zone, which you don't see a whole lot, and
Hmm.
teams seem to be having issues with it. And obviously, shooting the three and just you know being able to have veterans step up. Kayla Thornton, who is now uh, a great 3-point shooter, may have always
Hmm.
been there,
Yep.
but now you're seeing it, obviously, with the other 3-point shooters on the team. And then I think I mentioned last week Monique Billings
Yep.
coming in, and then they brought Letitia and me here back, which in my mind they shouldn't have cut her in the first place. But I'm
Same.
not there. I'm not privy to what went on. So she's been a big boost, to them as well. And they play hard. It's nothing fancy, and
Nope.
obviously that home court advantage is definitely an advantage, and they feed off that.
Yeah, I mean, they have the largest average fan attendance in the league right now. They play in a huge arena, Chase Center. It's a regular NBA sized arena. I know some of these teams sometimes often play in like places that aren't like full size 20,000-ish capacity arenas, but the Valkyries do and they're selling it out. And I mean, last night they almost won to the New York Liberty. They lost 81-78. And Kate Martin, who was taken from the Las Vegas Aces in the expansion draft, had probably her best game of her career, scoring 21 points. She got 4 3-point shots in. She was just kind of she had a stretch there where she was just going for it. And I think the identity of this team is so fun because it's all these people that were almost overlooked. I feel like we were having this conversation before, where they were overlooked, and then you bring them onto this team, and it just kind of shows why we need so many roster spots, so many more roster spots in this league. Because I mean, the fact that Monique Billings didn't have a spot, like a solid spot in the league, the fact that Kayla Thornton was kind of like a bench 6 woman option for the Liberty, and then people like Kate Martin who may not have even stuck on other teams last year as a rookie, being drafted in the second round, and now is doing things like this in Golden State. It's just really fun, and I think, they have a great coaching staff. They have someone who was a huge part of the Las Vegas Aces' success over the past few years, and Natalie Nakase leading them. So I think it's just like an exciting prospect for these expansion teams, because there's so much talent to go around that, like, you don't have to suck in your first year.
No, but I'm looking also at the other thing. This is if you're an expansion team and they've set the standard now. This is
Yes.
the template. The money that was put into facilities and marketing and
Mhm.
staff, and it's being run like a professional franchise should be run. And so
Exactly.
now, if you're a player, an athlete, you're looking at this, you're taking all of that into account, the organization, the owners, everything. Like, they just seem to have done everything very intentionally, and everything was timed out according to schedule. And
Mhm.
yes, you need a great coach, and yes, you need the players, obviously, but just the introduction and sustaining the product outside of the actual X's and O's has been phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, they're already the highest valued team in the WNBA. They're the first women's sports franchise to be valued at $500 million or higher. So, I
Half a
mean,
billion. Let's do it the other way. Half a
half a
billion
billion.
dollars.
Yeah, those stats came out, on Sportico a few days ago, and I mean, they've already shot to the highest of WNBA teams valuation wise. So, I mean, it's great to see them. They played last night against New York, obviously, and they'll play. Let's see, they are not one of the teams that have a back to back, so they'll go back at it this weekend. And yeah, I mean, that home court advantage is really just helping them. They're at 7-7 in the league right now, sitting in a playoff spot. I mean, it's early, things happen. It looks like really close when we look at like the 3 to 8 range. It's going to be really close at the end. But I mean, I wouldn't be shocked at this point to see them get one of those last playoff spots.
No, I wouldn't be shocked either. And a little bit off the subject, the ROI on the investment for
Hmm,
that
yeah.
team, just that team and some of the other teams in the league is amazing. New York Liberty, they were, I believe, $450 million, and I'm not sure what the Aces were, but Mark Davis paid like
Close.
2 million for them, and I mean, just it's just unbelievable when you think about it.
Yeah, it is when you think about it. I mean, now's the time to snatch up a women's sports team, I guess. Or I guess
Everyone
the
wants the
time
women's sports.
exactly. I guess the time was like a few years ago when everybody was like, $2 million, like whatever, just take it. And now look at you
Yeah.
now. But
Way off the subject, but I just had to
yeah.
mention
I
it.
mean, yeah, might as well. We love hyping up, the business of women's sports, but let's kind of move into something now. I mean, the All-Star game is coming up in 3 weeks time, and voting has been such a big topic of conversation. Our colleagues the other day on the podcast were talking about, just like 3 point, or were they talking the 3 point contest, I think? One of them. Something. But anyway, obviously you can tell I'm covering the NBA draft this week. I don't know what day is up and what's
I don't even
happening,
know how
and
you're on here doing this podcast, Chelsea. I really don't. I'm impressed.
yeah, well, if you didn't know, the Raptors picked, it's Thursday today. Yeah, Brian's letting me know it's Thursday. Yeah. Um if I didn't say that, I think I said it was Thursday at the beginning. Honestly, I don't know. I'm just yapping at this point. But anyway, All-Star game. Um One of the biggest stories, I mean, we were talking about Caitlin Clark. If she's injured, do you think the Indiana Fever let her do the 3 point contest? Is that like, because that's one of the biggest stories going into the
Yeah.
All-Star game?
I don't think it's a case of letting her. It's a case of, does she want to? Because I don't, again, she's a competitor, but is it really necessary? We know you can shoot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, we know you're one of the best shooters in the league, from
That's such a
half
good point.
half court. So we don't need for you to prove to us that you can beat everybody else in a contest. It might do you better just to get some rest. But
Oh my god, that's a
so yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. It's not like she won't be there.
no, of
But
course. Yeah, it's
but
in Indiana. She kind of has to go.
yeah, so but I'd like to see Caleb, the Burke kid from New York. I forget her
Kennedy
first name.
Burke.
Kennedy. I'd like to see her in it. I'd like to see Kayla Thornton just for fun. I'd like to see Marie Johannes and her one-legged,
Yep, her little
uh,
one-legged.
three pointers. Aside
Yeah.
from the usual, the usual suspects.
Sabrina, yeah, Sabrina Ionescu's kind of taken that over from Allie Quigley as, like, her thing. Who was Alicia Gray won last year. That was fun. She won both the skills contest and the 3-point contest last year. And I mean, someone that I want to see just at the All-Star game. I feel like people are sleeping on Gabby Williams as an All-Star prospect. Like we're talking about voting and all this stuff, and I'm like, where's the
Yeah,
Gabby Williams hype?
yeah. I'm totally with you there. She's had a tremendous year, shooting well from 3-point range. I'm not sure. At one point, she was in the 40s. I'm not sure what she is right now, but
Let me
um,
look.
just she is a complete player on both ends of the court, and yeah, I think she would do well there.
Yeah, I mean, she's currently shooting 38.9 from
I was
3-point
two
range.
percentages off, 2 percentage
Yeah.
points off. Yeah, but
Yeah,
just
but
a huge raise from last year in terms of
yeah. I
her
mean,
shooting.
yeah, last year she was shooting 32.3% from 3. She's also, increased her points per game by 4 points. She has increased her assisting, she's increased her steals, she more blocks, she's increased basically every statistic, and so, I mean, for you, like, in your opinion, because we're starting to talk about things like MVP, Rookie of the Year, but most improved player is something that's interesting because some people will say like, "Oh, if you went away and, for example, like Nafisa Collier was in the conversation a few years because she went away and had her kid and then came back and they were like, "Oh, she's most improved." And I'm like, "No, she just took a break. Like she didn't improve much. She just took a break and now she's back, you know?" Last year there was a lot of conversation about like Dejanay Carrington and it was okay, is she ended up winning and it was like, okay, is she just getting better because she's getting better or is she getting better because she has more minutes? So like is like was always a good player. She just played on the bench and then last year she gets a starting role. It's the same as Bridget Carlton who was up there. And so with Gabby Williams, like last year's stats are a little interesting because she only played 12 total games. She only came
Right.
after the Olympic break. But you look at 2023, again, she only played 10 games total. But then, okay, so the game that, or the year that she played the most, other than this year, of course, was 2022. She played 36 games. She only scored 7.5 points per game. She was shooting 25% from 3. She was shooting 44% from the field. Um, and yeah, and so like that I think is like probably the baseline of like where she's improving from. That's a full season of stats. She was playing in Seattle, it was her first year in Seattle. And so like to me, going from 7.5 points a game to now scoring 14 points a game to improve your 3-point shooting by almost 15%, to be improving your field goal percentage, your assists, the how many shots you're taking, your blocks, your steals. Like I think she's a great candidate for most improved player.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people like you're looking at the numbers, but I'm looking at her impact on the court.
Yeah.
They need her on the court to
Mhm.
win. They need her on both ends of the court, and so I think that's part of the conversation too when you're looking at most improved is how integral are they to and how they impact the team that they're on from the previous year. They need her on the floor, so I think I'm in agreement with you for the numbers and me from just
Yeah.
watching. I think
How
she
we
would
do.
be a phenomenal candidate for sure.
Yeah, and I mean just all-star in general when you think about, I mean her hoop stats puts the percentiles of where she is in every stat based on everyone else in the league, and when it comes to points she's in the 81st percent. I was about to say the 81th. Can you tell that I'm sleep deprived? The 81st percentile. She's in the 100th percentile, almost leading the league in steals. She's in the 92nd percentile for assists. Her 3-point percentage is 78th, so like she's up there. I think that she's someone that definitely should be considered at least for a reserve spot on the All-Star team.
Oh, no question. I mean, she is, I think, the best athlete in the league, but
Mhm.
also just a tremendous player
Yeah,
as well.
tremendous
So
two-way player.
I would definitely have her on the All Star team.
Yeah. I mean, looking back, if we're thinking about the little, the sub events at All-Star. Last year, Alicia Gray made history. She won both the three-point contest and the skills contest. Do you think either her or someone else can do that again, or was that just kind of like an anomaly?
No, I mean, I think Sabrina could do it.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that has impressed me about her this year is her passing has improved
Yeah.
tremendously from not that she was a terrible passer, but her vision this year is much better than it was last year. She is leading people to where they should be instead of passing them the ball in terms of the offense. And so I could see her winning that skills challenge because obviously
Mhm.
the end of it is you shoot threes. So,
Yeah.
and she's a good passer. So I could see her being somebody that would do that. I wouldn't be surprised. Chelsea Gray,
Mm.
Paige Beckers.
Yes. Oh my goodness, that would be
And
fun.
again, just for fun, Marie and Johannes. I just want
Yeah.
to see her out there. So yeah, it's entirely possible. And I mean, I think she walked away, Alicia Gray, because she walked away with like $55,000 last year from one day's work. I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So
Especially, like, when you're making, like, maybe the highest players usually make is about 220,000 in this
right,
league.
and I say 55, but Uncle Sam's going to get his cut. But still, you're walking away with more than what you came in. So heck yeah, if I were one of those guys, I'd want to compete.
Yeah, I mean, does Georgia have big taxes? I don't know. All I know is that Texas doesn't because that's where all the NBA players like to go.
Yeah, Texas and Florida. Yeah, Georgia has taxes.
Ah,
Yes.
okay, okay. I just know Canada for sure has taxes. We got a lot of taxes. But anyways, yeah, so that's interesting. I do think Sabrina, yeah, that's someone that could do that for sure. And I think she's a favorite to win the three-point contest as well. And she sat out last year, I think, because the Olympics were coming up. So she'll return to that hopefully. But it was funny, they were playing at Golden State last night, which is her hometown, first time she's ever played there because it's the expansion team, and one thing that I found was interesting where obviously people were asking her, "One day, would you wanna play for your hometown city?" And she was like, "No, I wanna play in New York for the rest of my career." And I don't know if that's something you say just because 'cause you're on New York and you wanna be faithful to your team, or, like, if that's actually, like, yeah, like, she's just content and she's just gonna stay there.
I
What
think that was a political answer because and she was probably caught off guard, and that was the best answer she thought she should give.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's a business, so we'll see. Obviously, they'd be crazy to let her go,
exactly.
but it's a business.
Yeah, and I mean, it's different. I feel like a lot of the Canadian players are definitely gonna get asked that as Toronto prepares to enter the league, and I feel like it's a little bit of a different conversation when you have the opportunity to play in a home country as opposed to a
Right.
home city or a home state. Like, Canadians very rarely get to play in Canada because, they can play for Canada, but it's so rare that we have events here for them to play. And so the opportunity to be able to play for the only Canadian team in the WNBA to play in Toronto if you're from, I mean, the GTA, or I mean, this is going to get super homer, but they start calling like Kitchener where Jamal Murray is from, and all these things, and SGA is from Hamilton. Those aren't Toronto. I just want to like put this out into the world.
No,
TNS
no, but
is, yeah, it's not from Toronto, but it's kind of, it's your home country. So yeah, I get that
yeah.
it's gonna be a little different because it's a country as opposed to a city.
Yeah, but I think when you're looking at your philosophy, just like it's the philosophy of the Valkyries, where they went with a lot of European players.
Yeah.
From a marketing standpoint, why wouldn't you bring
Hmm.
your Canadian players back to Toronto to play? I mean, I think
Yeah.
that would be the smart thing to do. Obviously, you're going to take the best players that you can get, but
Yeah.
I think there would be some focus on getting a couple of Canadian players.
Yeah, at least one or two. Like, come on, everyone's a free agent. Everyone is gonna be on the market to grab. So we'll see. I suspect at least one. And I mean, with all of these, like for example, with all these international players coming, there's a ton of really talented Canadian players that just play in Europe, and so or like other places. So we could even see some new Canadians coming into the fold in that way as well. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting time to be talking about who's gonna pop off and who is improving this year and how their free agency stock is going to improve because of that, because we're entering such an interesting time where all of these players are going to be free agents. The one thing I kind of wanted to talk about before we left that just kind of popped into my mind about this conversation is the fact that we've seen a lot of union stuff coming up in the past couple of weeks because the CBA negotiations are ramping up. And at the beginning of the season, the goal was to have a deal, come to terms before All-Star. And now All-Star's in 3 weeks, so that's just like around the corner. Um, in your opinion, like what kind of pressure that do these players have to put to be able to get a deal like this? And what's the consequences of it not happening?
The consequences of not getting it done by All-Star weekend?
Yeah, and just like
Or
not getting what they
um,
want because we're in this position where this contract is definitely going to be
yeah.
history breaking. Like they have so much leverage. Like what what happens if the league isn't, you know, giving them what they want?
Yeah, it's gonna be a standoff, but
Yeah.
I feel like the players are ready to not play
Mm,
if they don't get. I mean, it's a trade off. It's give and take, but I'm sure that they have a list of non-negotiables, and then there's
yes.
a list of things that hey, we're willing to compromise on. But this deal isn't for these players. This deal is for the future of the league.
Yeah.
And so they do have the leverage. And so when you have leverage, you're going to make demands that you feel are going to be, good for the future of the league. Now, obviously, the owners want to make money, and
Yeah.
the interesting piece about the WNBA is not all of them are independently operated.
Yep.
So that brings in other variables when you're thinking about the CBA. So it will be interesting, but I know that I feel like from what I've read and seen that they're prepared to not play, but I think everybody knows that that's not a great option.
Yeah,
So
of course.
it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, and I mean, I wanted to bring that up just because their like self-imposed deadline or their goal, I guess, is coming up because the All-Star break is coming up. And I mean, obviously, you say that to kind of put pressure on the situation, but as you go on in the few weeks, if you're listening and you're like, "What's going on? Why are all these players starting to talk about like contracts all of a sudden?" It's because they're hoping to finalize their CBA in at least the coming months, if not the month ahead of us. So yeah, they definitely deserve it. And there's a lot of little things to keep in mind about what they're asking. I mean, the Players Union has a lot of like great resources on their website if you're curious about it, to go kind of look into what they're asking for and what the previous deal looked like and what these negotiations are like. But I am excited to see what terms they're specifically going to get, what they're fighting for, and of course, like supporting them no matter what.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, we are going to call it here for today. And the Herb Stats podcast will be back tomorrow to talk about, whether Caitlin Clark is playing tomorrow night, updates, all of that stuff, all the stuff that that we want to hear. But thank you so much for watching today's episode and dealing with me and my delirious draft
Chelsea, get
week
some
blabber.
rest. I know you
I
have to go back to
know.
the second round
The
tonight. Get some
second round.
rest.
I know. The second round is tonight. This two night thing is kind of, there was a point last night where I'm like, I'm glad the second round isn't happening because it's almost midnight, but also now I have to come back tomorrow. But it's fine. It's fun. I'm gonna go draft another player tonight, and hopefully he doesn't swear when he's drafted. Um, no, he's fine. He was happy. He was happy. But thank you so much for watching today's episode of Her Hoop Stats. Make sure to subscribe both to this podcast and to our database online so you can see all of the stats that I'm constantly pumping out as we're recording this podcast. It's super easy, obviously, to use because I'm just kind of here clicking around while we're talking about stuff. But
I
thank you so
depend
much
on
for.
you to do that, Chelsea.
Yeah, I got you.
I
I got
depend on
you.
you to validate my gut feelings with numbers.
Exactly, which is always fun. But I mean, thanks for another great week, Coach, and we'll see you next time on the Her Hoop Stats podcast.